Recording started. Module3 lesson of LTI2096 awaiting student.
Hey Dana, can you hear me?
Hey Rajesh, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Sorry, I'm a bit late.
Oh, that's okay. I put the recording of the first lesson up there. You should be able to get to it now.
Great, thank you.
Then I'll put this one up.
Sure.
Let me get done with this one too. So we'll get started. This is the second lesson from this course. It's we're going to go over the step 2, which is select security controls.
Okay.
How are you doing on assignments? Are you doing okay there? Or?
I think this week is the first assignment, right? I finished my discussion for last week.
Yes, I've seen those. They're good. Yes.
Yeah, the assignments. Yeah, I have to start working on this week's assignment. I haven't started yet.
Okay. Let me know if you have any questions about that.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go over the categorization process again, security control selection, common control identifier, a definition of a cloud, and the next assignment, which will be the Module 3 assignment. We've already talked about the assignments, the categorization process. So that is what we've gone over so far. That's step one, categorization of the system. Use the 1253 NIST 800-37 and FIPS 199 and NIST 800-60 for that. Okay, so this week we're going to talk about information type impact determination. So there's different information types that, depending on what your industry is or what your job functions are, and that's the kind of stuff that we look at when we're trying to categorize the system. And in this case, we're using a SCADA system. SCADA is, if you don't know what SCADA is, it's like the power grid and water grid and stuff like that. That's the type of systems we're looking at, just for an example on this one. Okay, so determining potential impact values comes from this SP 800-60. You want to identify all information types. You want to identify a provisional impact, and then you want to base it on organizational factors, system environment, mission, use, and data sharing. So determining potential impact based on FIPS 199. Using SP 800-60, you want to look at each objective, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's the CIA triad. And then each has to be assigned a potential impact value, which would be low, moderate, high, or NA. Confidentiality, this is where you're preserving the restrictions of the information. Integrity, you want to make sure that the integrity of the information stays the same and that you can count on the fact that it hasn't been changed. And availability is making sure that the information that you need to get to or that your consumers need to get to is always available. So that's the CIA triad. We're going to go over this chart step by step in the next few slides, but this is a good chart that shows how you can determine impact values for your system. So with low, the definition of a low impact value, it is any effect of confidentiality, integrity, or availability that could have a limited adverse effect on operations, organizations, individuals, or other organizations, and as well as national security interests. A little amplification. A limited adverse effect means that the loss of confidentiality, integrity, or availability might degrade in mission capability. It limits the organization's ability to perform its primary functions, but effectiveness of lost functions is noticeably reduced. It results in minor damage. It could result in minor financial loss, or it could result in minor harm to individuals. So the definition of moderate impact value is that it could have a serious adverse effect on organizational operations, organizational assets, individuals, other organizations, or national security. And amplification, it could cause significant degradation in mission capability to an extent and duration that organization is able to perform its primary function, but the effectiveness of the function is significantly reduced. It could result in a significant damage, significant financial loss, and or significant harm to individuals.
So then amplification means like a little bit extension of something more than moderate.
Absolutely. So when so here I'm just giving a quick overview of what moderate impact value is. And then next I go into a little bit more detail about what a moderate effect on the system would be.
Okay.
So first a brief description, and then more amplifying data on what moderate means.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the definition of a high impact value to the system would be that it would be expected to have a severe or catastrophic adverse effect on the organization's operations, assets, individuals, on other organizations, or national security to the U.S. An amplification on that, if there's a high impact value, you can expect severe degradation or loss of mission capability to an extent and duration that organization is not able to perform one or more of its primary functions. So notice that's how extensive it is and how long it is, as far as the high is concerned. It can result in major damage, major financial loss, and severe or catastrophic harm to individuals exceeding mission expectations. So here's the availability categorization, a chart for that. High, so availability is carved out here, to make it a little bit easier. It depends on the organization, but in this example, if you lost availability to the data on the system for 15 minutes or more, then that would be a impact value of high for availability. This will make sense in a second. A moderate impact for availability would be, say, 24 hours of continuous outage, and low impact would be downtime may exceed 24 continuous hours per occurrence. So this is the kind of stuff that you look at when you're looking at the availability impact values. And this is just an example. It would be depending on your organization and the management in your organization. Okay, so now we're going back to the SCADA system again for an example. Looking at the overall impact determination, we have these information types here in that left column. And then for each one of these information types, we're looking at the impact value for those. So for SCADA equipment management, the impact for confidentiality would be high. The impact for integrity would be medium. Energy supply, the impact for that would be medium. So the overall impact, if you look at all of these, is high, medium, medium. That's an impact value. That's when you're determining the impact value of a system, it's going to be something like that: high, medium, medium. High, moderate, moderate, or moderate, 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 or low, moderate, moderate. It depends on each specific set of information types.
So we are doing a R here, like high, low, low. So then we are getting overall impact of high, something like that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is if you have different information types on your system.
Oh, I
Say,
see. Yeah.
for example, if you had a medical system, you might have personal information on there, which is one information type, and you might have proprietary information, like company information, which is another information type. So So what you would have to do is for each one of those information types, you have to look at the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of that. So
Okay.
if you have let's say for a medical system, you have personal information on there.
Yeah.
So for the personal information, you look at the confidentiality. So if, in other words, if someone else got into the system and got that privacy information, what would be the impact of that? And it would be probably high. And then integrity. So if someone got in and messed around with the information, the privacy information, what kind of issue would that cause? What would be the impact value? And then if you lost the availability to that personal information, what problems would occur in your organization? So you look at those three for each type of equipment. I mean, each type of information.
Got it. Yeah. So the highest from all that you will take. Okay.
Yeah. Then after you've looked at all your information and done that assessment for each type of information, you take the highest level for each one, and that would be the overall impact.
Got you. Yeah.
So if up here in this example of SCADA equipment management, if confidentiality was moderate, an M, then down here it would say moderate, moderate, moderate. Cool. Okay, security control selection. This is step 2. This is where we're selecting the controls. This is a big part of the, and maybe even the most difficult part of the risk management framework. You're going to do that in accordance with the CNSSI 1253, which is posted on there on ClanEd, and then as well as NIST SP 800-53. That's where all the controls are. And again, these are the publications that you use to do this with. These are the players. You got the primary role, which is the CIO, the CISO, CCP, program manager, information system owner. The CIO, you probably know what that is. It's the Chief Information Officer. The CISO is the Chief Information Security Officer. The CCP is the Common Control Provider, which a lot of organizations don't have, but that's who you would get the common controls from, which we'll talk in more detail about here shortly. These are supporting roles. The ref, the AO, that's I don't know if you're familiar with these yet, but the AO is the authorizing official. That's the big wig who approves or disapproves everything. And there's the AODR, which is an authorizing official designated representative. An ISM or ISO. An ISM is Information System Security Manager. Some places use Information Assurance Manager. ISO is Information System Security Officer. Some places use Information Assurance Officer, depending on where you're at, but it's usually ISM or ISO. ISI is the engineer. This STWD and the MBO is all supporting roles in this. And this is kind of a chart that shows you the flow of how this works. You identify the common controls, you select the controls, then you develop a monitoring strategy, and then you review and approve the system security plan. Actually, the AO does that part. And somehow I keep locking up. Okay, security controls. Security controls are all listed in 800-53. There's millions of them in there. Actually, there's probably about 800 or so in there. Security controls are the management. There's three different types. There's management, operational, and technical safeguards. They protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system. You're going to hear that over and over and over again. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's the CIA triad.
Yep.
And they properly manage the mission, business, and system risks. Like I said, CNSSI 1253 and NIST 800-53 are the ones that provide the sets of controls, and they're referred to for the baseline, and they're for organizations to use in the control selection process. There's three different security control types that are kind of amplified here. One is system specific. That would be a control that specifically it's for your system only. A common control, we'll talk about a little bit more later, is a control that you can use and from a higher echelon and you can inherit that control. And then there's a hybrid control, which is a combination of a system specific control and a common control. So common controls are usually provided by the common control provider. If you don't have a common control provider, it's easy to figure it out, and I'll show you how to do that later in this actual lesson. System-specific controls are, like I said, specific to the system, and it's the primary responsible of the information system owners to provide those controls or select those controls. And then the hybrid controls, as I said, can be a common control and a system-specific control together. So here's the control from 800-53. These are the families. So each one of these families has a whole host of controls under them. But as you can see, these are different families of controls that you would look at when you're selecting the controls. And I'm going to lock up again.
So Dana, are we supposed to like by heart these, or it's like by going through those 853 manuals, I just get practiced and then I'll become aware of it?
Okay, there's a couple things that could happen. One is there are overlays, which is coming up here shortly. An overlay, it would automatically select controls that would be used for your specific system. So I'll go back to a health care system or a medical system. There's an overlay that you can select that will automatically pick all of the controls that are common to a medical system.
So it's some kind of a tool or something, some software?
Well, there are tools like there's EMAS and Exacta that automatically do this, but if you don't have a tool, then what you would do is you would look at that overlay and you would pull all the controls that are under that overlay, and that's the controls that you would use for your system.
Oh, okay.
In addition to, and it doesn't have to be exact. You can add to or take away from it, depending on what your system owner or data owner or authorizing official decide to do.
Okay.
Okay, so again, 800-53 defines a common control as a security control that is inheritable by one or more organizational information systems. Example of a common control is organization common controls could be implemented at global enterprise level, implemented at local enterprise level, or inherited by all global local systems. An environmental control is relies on the environment. So physical controls like getting it. Okay, so just to break this down, to give you a good example of a common control, your company, your organization probably would have a policy that outlines what kind of training has to take place on an annual basis, on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis. So you probably have an organizational policy on that.
Mm.
So the system, so you can use that policy as a common control when you go into, hold on, let me go back here. You see AT here? The second one?
Yeah.
Awareness and training.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of controls under that you have to answer. If your company, organization, whatever, has a training policy, then you can use that as a common control to answer those questions under that particular control family. As far as physical controls, you probably also have a physical security officer or somebody who's in charge of the physical aspects and security of your company. They probably have certain policies already established, so you can use those as common controls in your system when you get to, I think there's a physical, you see PE down there, physical and environmental protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can use that as a common control for that. So many controls needed to protect organization information systems are excellent candidates for implementation as common controls, like contingency planning, incident response, intrusion detection, security training and awareness controls, personal security controls, physical and environmental protection, all the stuff that we talked about earlier. Again, common security controls are information security program management controls are often implemented as common controls since they're established at the organizational level, like, for example, training policies.
Mm.
Okay, now if you look in it's CNSSI 1253 table D2, which I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but this has a chart here that allows you to look at different aspects of the information, and it tells you what could be a common control for your system. This chart helps you determine some of that.
Okay.
Okay, common control selection. 800-53 does not identify an office of primary responsibility for common controls. Usually it's an organization will have a common control provider, but if not, it's usually the chief information officer or the senior information security officer. If there is a CCP, that's who you would work with to establish your common controls. Systems using common controls document use in the system security plan and provide a link to the references that they're using for those common controls, such as a policy or whatnot. Okay, step 2.2, security control selection. There's 2 steps in this, and now we're going to select all the security controls for our system. You select the initial security control set. That's the first step, and then you tailor the initial security control set or apply an overlay, which I'll talk about in a second if it's a DoD system. Have you looked over the non-NSS and NSS systems yet? Have we gone over that?
I think I read it in the first chapter, the second chapter somewhere, just an overview.
I'm pretty sure it's part of the reading and the assignments up to this point. But for non-NSS systems, categorize the information system. You select the appropriate control, which is low, moderate, or high, from 800-53 Appendix D. And then you would apply overlays as applicable or tailor the baseline depending on your organization. Identify common controls. You look at scoping considerations. You look at compensating controls, which we'll talk about in a second. You look at security control parameter values, and you look at supplementing the baseline controls. Okay, and now this is for an NSS system. You select the initial security control set by completing the following for an NSS system. Select the baseline from Appendix D of CNSI SSI 1253. That's in Table D and D1. You apply the overlays where applicable, which we're still going to get to. If the use of multiple overlays results in conflicts between the application or removal of security controls, the AO is the one who decides how to resolve the conflict. Then you document the initial security control set and the rationale for adding or removing security controls. Okay, so tailoring security controls. The authorizing officials, in coordination with other decision makers, may find it necessary to tailor or modify an initial control set due to operational or other considerations. Tailoring just means, when you hear tailoring, it just means kind of changing the control to meet the organization's needs. Sometimes you have to make it easier or harder, depending on the system or the mission of the system. The tailoring process includes selecting compensating security controls. When I say compensating security controls, that means a security control that meets the same security rules as the original security control, but it's been changed to meet the system needs. Then you specify organization-defined parameters. Tailoring controls in or out. When they say tailoring controls in or out, that just means changing the controls. It requires justification, so you would add that to the system security plan. Okay, we already talked about tailoring the initial security control sets. So now you want to supplement the tailored baseline. Based on the results of the initial security risk assessment, supplement the tailored baseline to address any residual risk. But that means any risks that are left over that haven't been addressed yet. Additional security controls or control enhancements may be needed to address specific threats or satisfy rules or regulations, especially national ones. Okay, overlays. I talked about this earlier. An overlay is specific, is really just a set of controls that are automatically selected based on the mission of and the data that's contained on your system. It's a structured set of controls that are added or subtracted from identified baseline controls, and it addresses specific organizationally or legislatively defined environments, operations, system functionality, or information type considerations. These overlays provide specific sets of controls, control enhancement, supplemental guidance, and parameter values. The drivers for these overlays, which, in other words, what causes the upper echelon to create these overlays, is the type of information, the system functionality, or the environment or operational considerations of the system. So here are some current and pending overlays. The current overlays are for space platforms, cross-domain solutions, intelligence systems, classified information systems, and privacy systems, which is generally a medical type system because you have to deal with HIPAA and privacy concerns. Some that are under development are information accessibility, industrial control systems or SCADA systems, and tactical systems. Okay, compensating security controls. To break this down and make it easier to understand, compensating control is basically a control that compensates for the possibility that you had to take another control out. So if there's a control in 800-53 that you're supposed to apply to the system, but it doesn't work quite right, or it breaks the system, or it does something that would cause the system not to work properly or the way it's supposed to, then you would come up with a compensating control that would provide the same type of security as the original control. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, there are some compensating security controls that you can select out of 800-53, or you can adopt them from another source, or they can be organizationally defined. Either way, they have to be documented in your security plan as to why you use that control and how it protects the system, as well as the original control would. Okay, next, in this step two, you also have to develop a monitoring strategy. Continuous monitoring is what you're going to be doing most of the time under the risk management framework for a system. So it's very important to develop a monitoring strategy from the very beginning. That's why it's in task 2. So task 2-3 is development of a monitoring strategy. So an effective monitoring strategy is developed early in the process, as I just mentioned. It can be and probably should be included in the system security plan, and it has to be approved by the AO or the AO's designated representative. A monitoring strategy looks at the frequency of monitoring for each control. It talks about the security control assessment approach. It talks about the configuration management and control process. It talks about how security impact analysis will be conducted, and the security status reporting requirements. Ongoing monitoring of security controls using automated tools and supported database facilities, near real-time risk management for the information system. This is a good idea if you have the funding in your organization to add automated tools for continuous monitoring. So for example, auditing tools or monitoring tools that would help you with your continuous monitoring strategy, and you would obviously describe those tools in the continuous monitoring plan. So you have to look at the entire enterprise when you're in the risk posture of the entire enterprise when you're looking at the monitoring strategy. That's just a good idea to do that. Some of the considerations when you're looking at the monitoring strategy is establishing a strict configuration management. It's important to have a configuration management plan that's continuously updated. Defining the methodology for conducting security impact analysis to determine the extent to which proposed changes to the system or its operating environment will affect the security state of the system. This is where you would have a configuration control board, so that any changes that are made, security is involved in making sure that those changes don't affect the security of the system. And then determining how many subsets of security controls will be assessed during the continuous monitoring period. Okay, so the security plan approval. So now you have the security plan with the continuous monitoring plan all in one package. The information system owner has been a part of putting this together, and now it gets submitted to the AO or the AODR. for approval. Either the AODR or the AO approves it, which is generally how it works. There's not very many, if it's really messed up, they'll disapprove it. Or they won't approve it and they'll send it back with recommendations for improvement. Any questions?
So then, when you submit all these plans to the AO or the AODR, are there some tools which are typically used to create these plans, or is it some Word document or a PowerPoint?
There are generally templates for everything that you have to create in this entire process.
Okay.
The NIST has templates for continuous monitoring plans for just about everything that you're ever going to have to create. There's a template for it.
Okay.
Or you can do like I do and find examples from other similar organizations. That's what I do, and I put my own organizational brand on it,
okay.
So that it covers everything that I need it to cover for my company.
Okay.
Okay, so do I need to go over cloud, or do you have that?
I mean, I've been working in cloud now, so but maybe you can quickly go through it. Yeah.
Okay.
And also another question then I had is am I supposed to read certain chapters before I attend the live session? I think so, but somehow I missed it for this week. So some of these things I feel like I haven't read it yet. But
well, you can. I'm going to have this uploaded, so you can go through it again. Of course, if there's any questions,
okay.
You can ask me. No, there's not really any required reading before you come to the class. There's required reading for each module. I mean, like module. So in other words, this is module 3 we're in, so you probably should have gone through at least through some of the reading for modules 1 and 2.
Okay. I didn't know that. Yeah.
So the cloud is a computing model for enabling convenient on-demand network access to a shared pool of configuration computing resources. It's pretty much an army of computers that host information for all types of organization. What goes into the cloud is data, information, applications, functions, and processes. The different types of environments. So, okay. So, essential characteristics of a cloud are on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured service. This is a visual model of what type of clouds there are available. There's public, private, hybrid, community clouds. There's different. I'm sure you already know that there's a software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. There's applications as a service. There's various types of cloud resources. So these again are types of clouds: public, private, community, and hybrid, which is a combination of them. The infrastructure for public is managed by a third party. It's owned by a third party, and it's located off premises. This is all kind of common cloud information. As I said, there's software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. If you need to know any of those, you could either come back to this or It's easy to look up SAS, PASS, and IaaS for that. There's different service models that you can. I mean, there's a whole host of different service models that you can look at when you're trying to develop a cloud for whatever your needs might be. If it's could be just data that you're using the cloud for. A lot of people use the cloud for just data, but some of them use it for software as a service. For example, if you want to have all these software applications provided for a particular organization, you don't want to have them all on your personal servers. You would contract a cloud service to provide all these. Any questions?
No.
Okay, so after this, I think you already know that you got to go in and do the takeaway messages. Did you do that for the last one?
Going and clicking at that, did I complete some questions it's asked me?
Yeah, it's asking you to provide three.
Oh, for the first module, I think I have to do it.
That's cool. It's at your own pace, but
oh, I see. Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't want to get too far behind because then you won't understand what we're talking about when we come in here.
Okay. So this class is for module 3 or module 2?
This is from module 3.
Oh, okay. But I was thinking I'm still in module 1, right? As part of assignments. Week 1, week 2.
I think you're still in module 3. 1, yeah, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
But
since we missed last week, since it was Memorial Day weekend, we didn't have class, right? I was traveling, that's why I'm checking.
No, we only have class on the odd modules. So module 1, module 3, module 5, and module 7. That's it.
I see. Okay, got it. Yeah.
And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Send me an email. Okay. Call me if you can't get me on the phone. So I'm always on my email. So if you need me to call you, just send me an email because I can't bring my cell phone into work where I'm at. So if you need me to call you, I can call you if you email me.
Sure. I think I have to catch up on my reading. Yeah. Then I'll have questions. Yeah.
Okie doke. Anything else?
That's it for now, Dana. I think I will catch up on my reading next time, and yeah.
Okie doke.
Come up with some questions. Yeah. And do we have any for this first